Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's great to be back with you as always, because without you, there's no me. You know, how ought to be here? I was looking in the papers and trying to find something fun in the news. I can't find anything. Trump said this and Trump said that, and North Korea is going to do this, and North Korea is going to do that. And then this fellow all of a sudden who wanted to break up everything, named Harvey Weinstein. I'm not going to talk about any of that. That's not what this show is all about. This show is a light show. It's a fun show. It's an informative show. It's the most dynamic show on television. And for Area 58 Community Access Media, I'm Ken Simmons, and this is the Ken Simmons Show. I want to say a quick story because I have a guest, as usual, and my guest is also dynamic, interesting. You're going to love her. And I want you to stay by you because the information we're about to give you is important. Important to you, your loved ones, friends, relatives, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a minute. But as you know, I was a hairstylist. And when I say that to people today, hairstylists today do men and women. It's unisex. Nothing wrong with that, but I couldn't cut a man's hair. I wasn't taught how to cut a man's hair. I was taught how to cut women's hair, how to curl it, how to wave it, how to permanent wave it, how to bleach it, how to tint it, how to rinse it, how to comb it out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I always used to say I travel all over the world doing shows. I didn't travel all over the world. I traveled to France, Germany, Italy, England, Taiwan, Japan, and Korea. That ain't bad. That's quite a few places to go. And one of my favorites, as you know, and I've said before, Ava Gabor. For those of you that don't remember Ava Gabor, too young to ever even heard of her, she did a show called Green Acres. She's also a glamour girl, elegant, intelligent, a good businesswoman, and a very dear friend. She, of course, is gone now, but she had a sister by the name of Jaja and another sister by the name of Magda, and her mother's name was Jolie. And they were elegant Hungarian women who really knew how to put it on. Years ago, when I was young, my mother sat me, my Yiddish mama, sat me down. She says, "Hey, you sit. I should tell you something. Your father's not going to tell you, so I got to tell you, but it's going to be quick. It's going to be very brief. It's going to be right to the point. You're at an age now," I was about 16 years old, I guess, "where you are looking at women differently than you used to. And I want to tell you something. You never, ever touch a girl or a woman unless she invites you to do so." I said, "How will I know if she's..." "You'll know. You'll know. However, conversely, she can hug you or kiss you because her motives are different than yours, you pig." That was my Yiddish mama. And you know what? I never forgot that. But as a hairstylist, as a hairdresser, when you're doing women, thousands of them over the years, a lot of years, it's a whole different attitude. I would touch a woman on the shoulder or on the arm, not a... You know, I don't understand why a guy wants to touch a woman inappropriately. What kick do you get out of that? Anyway, that's not the point here. The point is, you've got to respect women. You've got to respect them for what they are. You've got to respect them because of their fight to break that glass ceiling, which they're succeeding pretty doggone good too, by the way. And that brings me up to my guest. I'm not going to say any more about women or anything like that. I just know that I respect them. My guest today, again, very interesting. Slip up your shoes, pour yourself your favorite beverage, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're all back, we're all together, we've got it all together. I've done my little monologue, I hope you got something out of it. I thought it was pretty damn good, but anyway, I want you to meet my guest for today. Her name is Leela Botsford. Hi, Leela.
Hi, Ken. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. I know it's a terrible tear out of your very busy day. Leela, as you probably know, I'm the chairman of the Board of Commissioners at the Carver Housing Authority. And we have had an executive director there for the past 18 years. I've been there about 16 years, so you get a good idea of what's going on over there. The Carver Housing Authority is located between the library, the Carver Library, and the Carver Town Hall on a little road called Meadowbrook Way. As you go down Meadowbrook Way, on the left is Carver Housing Authority. On the right is another housing authority, nothing to do with us. It's a federal housing authority. And I'm not going to get into that except to say that it does exist, and it exists for you. So, without further ado, I want to know how long you've been in the business.
Well, actually, I was thinking about that earlier, and it's 30 years this month that I've been working for Massachusetts Public Housing Authorities.
Holy man, if you don't mind my saying what's going to be considered a sexist thing, you don't look 30 years old.
Well, thank you. I started when I was 5.
That's extraordinary. I had no idea you were in the business that long.
Yeah.
You are now the executive director in the Housing Authority in Mashpee.
Yes, I am.
Okay. And have you been there all that time, or have you been in various?
I've been at various housing authorities. I've been in Mashpee for 20 years. I started out actually at Taunton Housing Authority.
As an ED?
As a secretary to the ED. Taunton's a very large housing authority.
Yeah.
They have an executive director, an assistant executive director, and a full-time accountant. And I was secretary to all 3 of those gentlemen.
Wow.
So that's how I got my start. And then I moved to the Cape. A job opportunity came up at Barnstable Housing Authority. So I moved there into a kind of a middle management position running their leased housing programs. And I was there for about 8 years before I took over as executive director in Mashpee.
Wow, pretty varied.
Yeah.
May I ask if you're married?
I am married.
Children?
I have 2 grown boys, Adam and Christopher. Christopher, very proud of him. He's a police officer at the town of Barnstable.
Oh, yeah.
And he and his wife, Anna, have our first granddaughter, Fiona.
You're a grandma?
I'm a grandma. I'm a nana.
You know, again, this is going to sound sexist, but I remember grandmas when they wore pugs and long dresses.
Times are changing.
I guess so. Thank God they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. And my other son, Adam, currently lives out in Minnesota and has
Beautiful
a girlfriend.
State.
Yeah.
Beautiful state. What's he do, if I may ask?
He is a computer programmer.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Your husband does, what does he do for a living, if I may ask?
Sure. My husband builds autonomous underwater vehicles for Hydroid in Pecasset. It's a very interesting job and one that I probably can't explain as well as he could, but basically he builds vehicles that are work in the water autonomously. They're programmed to go out and do a mission, and whatever that mission is, and then they return information back over a computer system. And sometimes they go out looking for minefields so that men don't have to find them. They find shipwrecks, they find airplanes.
Like a robot.
Yeah, it is a robot, yeah, but he builds those.
That is astounding. Would he be willing to go on television, do you think?
I don't know, he's kind of shy.
Would you ask him? Because
ask
that's
him.
an incredibly,
Yeah.
I know absolutely nothing about that.
It's interesting work.
Yeah.
It is.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
Does it require travel on his part? Is he away from home a lot?
Not anymore. He traveled a bit in a previous position that he had. Once in a while they'll ask him to go out in the field, but not very often anymore.
Gee, that's a very interesting tale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind because I'm going to see you later on today.
Yes. Yeah.
Why are you work for the Housing Authority? Why? Why did you want, is it something you wanted to do, or is it just a job that happened to be open and you thought you'd try it, or?
Well, a lot of people don't know this about me, but when I was young, I was homeless. I was a single mom and homeless, and doing my best to raise a child on my own.
Can I stop you for a minute?
Yeah.
Did you say you were homeless?
I was homeless. I was homeless for a short period of time, thankfully. Had to live in a shelter, which was horrible.
Yeah, gee.
I had a mentor of mine who told me about a position at the Taunton Housing Authority. And at the time, I was actually going to school, trying to learn how to write a professional resume. I'd never been on an interview. And I got an interview at Taunton Housing Authority. When I went to the interview, it was like no other interview I'd been at. There were at least 8 people sitting in on this interview. So it was very intimidating. I had the whole board of commissioners, so 5 there. I had the executive director, I had his assistant, and the accountant. So I sat in on this interview, first interview ever, and I think I was shaking quite a bit.
I can well imagine, yeah.
But I did my best, and obviously they liked me because they hired me. And I always felt the need to give back. At that point that I ended up getting the job, I had found an affordable rental, which was hard to come by even at that period of time, 30 years ago. Now it's so much worse. But I know what it's like to be homeless. I know what it's like to be a single parent. I know what the struggles are.
Wow.
And I felt committed to helping others better themselves, as I'd been able to do.
Jeez, what a great story that is, and thank you so much for telling it.
You're welcome.
You're nothing to be ashamed of,
No.
but are you? Do you feel?
I'm not ashamed.
When you were homeless, were you depressed? I mean,
I was depressed, but I didn't have time to really dwell on it.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
working, I was going to school, I was raising my son. It was a little bit depressing and felt degrading at the time. People would look down on you because you didn't have a place to live. It was just circumstances that came about in my life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
thankfully I wasn't in a shelter for too long, and I was able to find an affordable rental unit that worked out for me at the time in my life. But I'm not ashamed. I feel proud that I was able to make it through that. A lot of people, do get depressed, and they don't know how to pull themselves out of circumstances.
I know. They get so depressed they can't move.
Right.
Can't get out of bed.
Exactly.
I have a whole new picture of you now. Yeah. And again, she's the executive director of the Conver Housing Authority. I'm the chairman of the board there, so in effect, I'm kind of like her boss. And what a great selection we made in hiring her to replace our former director, because she understands, because she was homeless herself, she understands what people in the Housing Authority are going through, some of them. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to catch my breath on that because I didn't expect that. Totally unexpected. Wonderful, wonderful story. Thank you so much for telling that. So we're going to take a little break here while I catch my breath, wipe away the tears, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We're back, and I'm just getting over that story that you all heard. It's got to be a little difficult to expose things like that about yourself, but she had no problem with it, and well, she shouldn't. Look where she is today. She's executive director. It's a good job, and we'll find out just how good in just a moment. Something, I've been serving on boards of housing authorities for about 26 years now, and no regrets. I've had good times and bad times. Very few, in all those years, very few executive directors. I had one in Randolph, When I left there, came here, I had one in Carver until very recently. So you're my third executive director, which I think is remarkable. There's very little turnover
Right.
in Housing Authority. But people say to me, well, the Housing Authority is run by the town. I say, gee, no, it isn't. But we elected you. That's the only thing you do. You elect 4 commissioners, and one is a state appointee. A state appointee, who needs that? The Housing Authority needs that.
Right.
That's the way it is. So could you kind of explain what the state's function is, even the dreaded DHCD?
Sure. Well, you're right. The towns that have housing authorities created them under Chapter 121B of the Massachusetts General Law, and it is created as its own entity, and the only thing that the town really has to do with it is to declare that they need one or that they don't need one, and then to elect 4 of the 5 members. The 5th one is appointed by the governor. But housing authorities really don't have a lot of interaction with the town. Some have some more interaction than other towns, but basically you're not part of town staff, you're not part of their budget. You're out there doing your own thing and hopefully working together with your town when you need to do things together. But every housing authority that's been created in Massachusetts was created under that particular law. A housing authority is then overseen by that Board of Commissioners. Those 5-member board starts out adopting bylaws, and from there they go on and hopefully create housing if they don't already have it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the job of the Board of Commissioners primarily to set policy?
Primarily, they have 3 main duties, and that is to hire an executive director
Yeah.
to do the day-to-day operations of the housing authority. They have the authority to set policy for the housing authority, and they're also responsible for the fiscal activities. So they need to be sure that
By fiscal activity, you mean fiduciary?
exactly.
Okay.
So you want to review and approve budgets each year. You want to make sure that the bills are being paid correctly and that there's proper backup to those bills, invoices and things of that sort, because you're ultimately responsible for that. But those are the 3 main things that a board is responsible
Okay.
for.
What does it take for a person to live at the housing authority, to get an apartment at the housing authority?
Well, the first step is to file an application. And unfortunately, most housing authorities in Massachusetts have waiting lists that are very, very long, sometimes 5 to 10 years long.
Wow.
Yeah, and that is because there's been no new public housing created in many, many years. In fact, Mashpee's development was one of the last that was built, and that was in 1991. Since then, there's not been any new public housing.
That's 26 years ago. They haven't done anything yet. No more new housing
No
authority?
more public housing.
No more public housing.
Right, right.
How about the housing, the public housing that exists? Can you add on to that?
Well, I think the state is currently trying to figure out ways to do that, or also try to figure out ways to have staggered rents, so maybe have a couple higher rents mixed in with the lower rents so that the housing authority can better
Sustain
serve
itself,
their
yeah.
budget. But unfortunately, wherever you go, in most cases, you're going to hear that it's quite a long wait.
Yeah. How long a wait has Carver Housing Authority got? Do you know?
I would estimate probably between 5 and 10 years for the family housing,
Yeah.
at least 10 years for disabled housing, and probably also maybe 5 to 7 years for the elderly
Wow.
housing. And
Right.
it's just because there's just not a lot of it, number one, and number two, people, once they move in, they very rarely voluntarily move out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I want to stop you for just a minute and explain a little something she just said offhandedly, because she's used to it. There are 3 segments in our housing authority. One is elderly, with 20 units, I believe. The next segment is disabled, 12 units?
8.
8.
Yep.
And the next category would be
Family.
family. And to qualify for family, you've got to have how many kids?
Well, it depends how many bedrooms. If you have a,
Okay.
yeah, so all of it depends on your household composition and your income. Those are the qualifications, basically. And those incomes change from year to year, and it depends on how many people are in the household. So someone that may be applying for, say, a 3-bedroom unit may have 3 children, 4 children, maybe just 2 children if the 2 children require separate bedrooms. There are a lot of different scenarios that can be at play.
Can a husband and wife move in? Or does it have to be a
Absolutely.
single husband or a single wife?
No, you
A
can,
single mother, I should say.
right. No, you can have a married couple
You can.
or move in with a child.
Okay. Income level, what's the requirement there?
Well, they change a lot, but basically it's about 80% of the area median income. So that changes every year. And
That
those,
much? That's a lot.
yeah, yeah. There's I don't know them off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's okay.
But they do change periodically, and sometimes they change according to the programs that you have too. But most people that apply meet those guidelines.
Is there any, on the waiting list, is there any way that you can jump to the head of the list?
There is.
Okay.
Yeah.
How?
Well, you can, number one, be a veteran,
Okay.
and I actually agree with that. I think it's great. I think that there are too many homeless veterans.
So if
right
you're a
now.
veteran, you go to the head of the list?
Yes, you do.
Have to be a resident veteran?
No. No.
Oh.
So,
Does that apply to females as well as males? Because there's female
Absolutely.
there's female
Absolutely.
veterans.
right, right.
See, now that's something I didn't know. I thought you had to be a disabled veteran
No.
and a resident of the town before you hop to the top of the list.
No, no, that recently changed. If you are a resident of the town, however, you're going to go ahead of those that are not residents of
not.
the town. So that's called a residency preference, and that
Okay.
applies to all housing
Okay.
that we have. If you apply and you live in the town of Carver, you're going to go ahead of somebody that lives in, say, Middleborough.
Okay.
The other way to get closer to the top of the list is to apply for an emergency status.
Ah, there's that. There's that.
that
I
too.
didn't know that either.
Right,
Okay.
and it is pretty strict guidelines that you have to meet in order to be qualified as an emergency. You have to be either suffering from being in a unit that the Board of Health condemned. You have to be surviving a fire in your home.
Okay.
Or the more common thing is to be a victim of domestic violence or homeless due to no fault of your own. And that sometimes can be sticky. People might think that they're homeless and that they should automatically jump to the top of the list, but if they're homeless because they didn't pay their rent,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not due to no fault
Okay.
of your own.
Yeah.
So.
What is? I'm rushing a little bit because time is running out on it.
Yeah.
We could talk about this for a couple of hours. What is the charge? What's the rental charge?
Yeah, good question. Tenants, when they move into public housing, pay approximately 30% of their income to rent.
That's important. You pay 30% of your income.
Right,
That includes Social Security.
right, right.
And it also includes any inheritance.
Yep.
You get an inheritance for $2,000?
Well, there are different regulations for if it's a
Yeah.
lump sum or if it's a regular thing that you receive. There are all kinds of regulations that DHCD has given us to follow.
You know what, Leila? If there's anything, if we piqued your interest and you want to know, call the Carver Housing Authority.
Absolutely.
They have all the information at their fingertips, and they are very nice people, by the way. So you can call them. Sandy will answer the phone. If Leila is there, you can probably talk to Leila if she's available and not too busy. So these things are all good. If you've never been to a housing authority, is there any way that a person could come in, like, say, 40 years old? By the way, what's the age? What's the age? Any age?
Well, for
For
our
families, any age.
families any age.
For disabled?
Disabled, any age.
Any age. But elderly is
60 and over.
60 and over.
Yeah.
60 is elderly?
I guess so.
Oh my God, what does that make me? I'm Methuselah. Okay, but yeah, again, this is so important. I've been on housing authority boards for 26 years, and it's so important because it's such a great place to live. They totally independent. When they move in, they have to take care of the place, of course, but they'd want to do that anyway.
Right.
And they are totally independent. They come and go as they please.
Absolutely.
You can have a car,
Mm-hmm.
have a parking spot for your car.
Yep.
You're plowed out in the summer, in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody mows the grass.
Mm-hmm.
And the rent, the 30% includes heat and lights, heat and electricity.
Includes heat and I think it's partial electricity.
Partial.
Yeah, I think some of the tenants pay for their own electricity, but then the development pays for the common areas. I'd have to double check that. I'm so new, Ken, and it can
Okay.
differ. It can differ from housing authority to housing authority.
Okay, I understood it was the entire thing. Heat
The
and lights.
families pay for their own
Okay,
heat and hot water.
okay, I'm talking elderly now.
Oh, the elderly, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Everything's included.
okay.
Unless you
Yeah.
want, a phone or your cable, but you do get discounted cable.
You
through the
can't beat
housing
that.
authority. Yeah.
And they're very cute apartments, I think. Okay, Leila, I could go on and on and on here. I just got the signal that time is running out. And again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day, starting a new job. I know you're busy, and you came here in such glory. Thank you so very much.
Thanks for having me, Ken.
Maybe we'll have you on again once you're more settled in the job.
Sure, that sounds great.
We'll do a revisit.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Until then, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got a lot out of it. If you didn't, if there's some questions on your mind, look in the phone book. Carver Housing Authority. Give us a call. Give them a call. Somebody will answer your phone. We're only open Wednesdays and Thursdays, you know, right? Wednesdays and Fridays.
Wednesdays and Fridays.
Wednesdays and Fridays, 9 to 3 or 9 to 2?
9 to 3.
9 to 3. 9 to 3, Wednesdays and Fridays. Give us a call. You got more questions. Until then, you haven't got rid of me. I'll be back. I'll have another dynamic guest. Maybe not as pretty, maybe not as charming, but a guest. You can count on that. Until then, keep a song in your heart. Goodbye and God bless.